Welcome to Lawyers Who Care, the video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And on each episode, we will meet a new lawyer and they will share stories of when they went beyond legal counsel for the benefit of their client. My name is Andrew Samalin. I'm the principal of Samalin Wealth, a nationally recognized wealth management firm for lawyers, their firms, and their clients. And let's applaud lawyers who care and learn from them. Today, my guest is Neil Anderson. He is the owner and principal attorney of Envision Estate Planning. Neil practices estate planning law in Arlington, Massachusetts, and he provides those services to families, young professionals, and students. Welcome, Neil.
Thank you very much, Andrew. I'm so happy to be a guest on your show. Thank you.
My pleasure. Neil, tell us about first your firm and then how you came to that profession.
All right, so I opened up my firm about three years ago. I do here, 90% estate planning. A bit of probate or some other matters when it comes directly through, my clients that I've served over the last couple of years. I take a little bit of a different approach with lawyering. The first thing I can tell you is I love my clients. I believe in having relationships with them. From the minute you walk in here, even before you're a client, I try to treat people like family. You come in for a consultation, you're never on a clock, and you're always meeting with an attorney. Usually myself, I have a couple of other attorneys that I do work with that support the work we do at times, but it's something I take pride in. My average client is usually young families, young to middle-aged families looking to have entry points into estate planning, and but that's by no means the only clients we have, but that's my typical.
And how'd you come to the what you specialize in family estate planning?
Can I give you a long answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my gosh. So
by the way, just so you know, we're not on the clock either.
Let me take you back to law school. I never took an estate planning class in law school. And Andrew, if you'd asked me during law school to give you a definition of estate planning, I would have been challenged. And I never envisioned estate planning. I never envisioned myself sitting where I am now with an estate planning practice. I envisioned myself being a courtroom attorney. Matter of fact, I won the Advocate of the Year award at my law school during some type of a mock trial competition. But life kind of happens. I'm a midlife attorney, meaning I went to law school at night in my 40s. I'm a dad first, and a husband, and I have a son that I was, while I was going to law school, he was tagging along with me, sometimes even came to school with me. And I was running a small nonprofit organization. And so when I got out of law school, I knew I needed flexibility, and I was hired by a gentleman named John Tramontosi, another lawyer who cares. I want to throw his name out there because he is my mentor in law. And I'd known him for a few years. He was a general practitioner, so he did a little bit of everything. But mostly, I'd say most of the work I was doing was personal injury work right out of law school. And I did a little bit of estate planning. And then I found when I was at the park with my son, talking to other moms, other dads, you know where the conversation always goes. Kids are playing and you're talking to somebody you don't know, and eventually it goes to, what do you do? So I tell them I'm a lawyer, and they would say, what kind of law do you practice? And at first I would identify myself as a personal injury lawyer, and that always led to a long drawn out story, never to a client, to a long drawn out story about a car accident from long ago, or whatever the case might be. And then I started to tell people I was doing a little bit of estate planning, and they'd say, oh, do you mean like wills and stuff like that? And I'd say, well, yeah. And They said, well, we need that. We need to think about that. And then I was starting to bring clients into my firm, into John's firm. And that was great. But I don't think I really identified with estate planning at that time. I knew it was important. I knew kind of the inner mechanisms of it, and I was doing it. But I was at that time more passionate about serving my personal injury clients. And then comes COVID, and I remember the day. I think it was March 19th, 2020, picking up my son from school. He was in the first grade at the time. And the school saying, there's no need for you to come back tomorrow, Mr. Anderson. So I found out within a couple of weeks of that time that I could not both lawyer and manage my son and his education at the same time. And so I took a leave of absence from Tramontosi Law and homeschooled my son. And that actually ended up, I thought it was going to be 3 months. It ended up being 1.5 years. So almost as soon as I'm practicing as a lawyer, it becomes derailed. During COVID, during that time, a very near and dear friend of mine passed away. She was given a stage 4 lung cancer diagnosis. And I still remember calling to see if her affairs were in order. And she said, no, we need to do that. We need to do that. So my friend had a husband, a daughter, and a mom who had just moved in with her who had the onset of dementia. And end of the day, she went very quickly. We never got her affairs settled. And it was a bit of a mess because now, like myself, she had gotten married later in life. The finances were not all joint. Her name was on the deed and the mortgage. Most of the accounts were in her name, not the husband's name. And so that his daughter could continue to go to school and he could maintain the house and pay the expenses instead of taking care of grieving and taking care of himself and his daughter and his mother-in-law. My friend's husband, who's also a dear friend of mine, had to go to work full time. While my mentor-in-law, who I told you about, I had introduced the family to him, and he was handling the probate matter for them. It really opened my eyes. All of a sudden, estate planning became very tangible and very, very real, if that makes sense. And the need for it, and the pressing need for it, and what can happen when that's not in place. And so I found myself losing a lot of sleep. One, because I'd lost a dear friend, and two, because professionally I kind of had my eyes opened and decided I was going to specialize in estate planning at that time. Initially I had thought I would take it to the other firm and see if we could kind of develop a branch. That didn't really fit in with that business model. And so instead of going back to work for my mentor-in-law, I decided I was going to open my own practice and hang my own shingle. And that's basically what got me into it. And I love it.
Great. By the way, everyone, this is my guest, Neil Anderson. He's the owner and principal attorney at Envision Estate Planning. Neil, can you provide our audience with your contact information twice, please?
Certainly. So you can reach my office at 781-423-2120. Again, that's 781-423-2120. Or you can email me at Neil, Neil, at Envision, ENVISION.law. So it's Neil, NEIL, at envision.law.
Gotcha. Everyone, this has been the Lawyers Who Care video show podcast that highlights attorneys who go above and beyond for their clients. And as As we've seen with Neil, that is his stock and trade. If you know an attorney or one who goes above and beyond, feel free to reach out to us, 914-666-6600. Neil, thank you so much for joining us today.
You're so welcome.